Welcome to our channel History of Coins, where we explore the hidden gems of numismatics. In today's video, we're diving into the fascinating world of rare quarter-dollar coins, cause some of these coins hold an incredible history, and some are worth millions. So today, we are gonna uncover the rarest varieties and their values. So make sure to watch the complete video and find out if you have one of these. Now let's continue our today's video. Top 1 today, we're diving into the incredible story of a coin that might be hiding in plain sight. A coin so common at first glance, you'd never expect it to hold such a powerful secret. We're talking about none other than the 1965 Washington quarter dollar from the United States of America. Now, before you write this one off as just another ordinary quarter, I need you to listen closely, because what you're about to learn might change how you look at every quarter in your collection. Some versions of this coin are so rare, so unique, and so historically significant that collectors are paying jaw-dropping prices to get their hands on one. And yes, one specific 1965 Washington quarter has sold for a staggering amount that we'll reveal at the very end. You won't want to miss it. Let's begin with a little background. The Washington quarter had been in circulation since 1932, initially released to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington. But the year 1965 marked a major turning point, not just for this coin, but for U.S. currency as a whole. That year, the U.S. Mint made a monumental change. Due to rising silver prices, the government decided to remove silver from dimes and quarters. From 1965 onward, quarters were no longer made of 90% silver. They were instead struck from a clad composition of copper and nickel. Sounds simple, right? But this change led to some unexpected consequences that created ultra-rare and valuable variants of the 1965 Washington quarter. Here's where it gets exciting for collectors. Although the Mint officially stopped producing silver quarters after 1964, there are a few 1965 quarters that were accidentally struck on leftover 90% silver planchets. Planchets being the blank metal discs used to make coins. These rare silver-struck 1965 quarters are not only minting mistakes, but also numismatic treasures. Imagine an innocent-looking 1965 quarter with the wrong metal content, carrying a unique fingerprint of American coinage history. But that's not all. There are also 1965 quarters with remarkable mint errors. These include off-center strikes, double dies, missing edge reading, and even quarters struck on dime planchets, making them smaller and lighter than they should be. Some errors are so distinct and so clear that collectors consider them once-in-a-lifetime finds. Every little detail, whether it's an odd weight, a different tone, or an unusual rim, can be a clue that you're holding a true rarity. Now let's talk about condition. Just like anything else in the collecting world, condition is key. A 1965 quarter in poor shape might still be a cool piece of history, but a high-grade, uncirculated example, especially with an error, can be worth far, far more. Professional grading services, like PCGS or NGC, assign grades to coins on a 70-point scale. The closer to 70, the better the condition and the more valuable the coin. Now you might be wondering, how many of these rare quarters are out there? The answer, not many. That's what makes them so special. The vast majority of 1965 quarters were made correctly, with the new copper-nickel composition and entered regular circulation. Finding a silver planchet error or a highly graded error coin from 1965 is like finding a needle in a haystack. But it's that very challenge that makes collecting so thrilling. Collectors aren't just buying coins. They're buying a piece of mystery, a piece of history, and in some cases, a true investment. And let me tell you, nothing gets collectors more excited than a coin with a story, a twist of fate, and a price tag to match. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. How much can one of these rare 1965 Washington quarters actually be worth? Are you ready? One exceptionally rare 1965 Washington quarter, struck by mistake on a 90% silver planchet and preserved in nearly perfect condition, has sold for an absolutely astonishing amount. That single coin was sold for 80,000 United States dollars. Yes, you heard that right. $80,000 for a quarter that, on the surface, looks like pocket change. It's an incredible reminder that the world of coin collecting is full of hidden gems, waiting to be discovered by someone just like you. Next time you're sifting through change, digging through an old jar, or flipping through your coin collection, Pay extra attention to that 1965 quarter. It might be worth far more than 25 cents. It might be the coin that changes everything. Top 2, we're turning the spotlight onto a coin that's more common than you think, but with a twist that makes it one of the most exciting discoveries in American numismatics. We're talking about the 1967 United States Washington quarter dollar. Now, before you yawn and say, "Oh, I've seen dozens of those," hold on, because what you're about to hear might have you running to your old coin jar or checking your pocket change. You see, while most 1967 quarters are worth only their face value, a small number have secrets that turn them from everyday currency into high-value collector's items. And at the end of this video, we'll reveal just how much one of these special coins sold for. It's a number that will truly surprise you. Let's take a step back into history for a moment. The 1960s were a major time of change for U.S. coinage. By 1965, silver had been removed from quarters and dimes due to rising costs. From that year on, quarters were minted using a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of 90% silver. That change meant millions of 1967 quarters were struck without a drop of silver. But, as with many things in coin history, not everything went exactly as planned. Some 1967 quarters were struck with errors, and that's where the story gets interesting. Minting mistakes may sound minor, but in the collector world, they can mean big money. So what kinds of errors make this seemingly ordinary coin so valuable? Let's start with off-metal errors. These are coins that were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations, like dimes or foreign coins. Imagine a quarter with the size and weight of a dime, but the design of a Washington quarter. That's an error collectors go wild for. Then there are double die errors. These happen when the die that stamps the coin shifts between strikes, creating a doubled image on the lettering or date. On a 1967 quarter, a strong double die, especially one affecting the words "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," can turn the coin into a standout rarity. There's also the dramatic struck-through error, where a foreign object like a piece of cloth, wire, or grease ends up between the die and the planchet, leaving behind a mysterious and often eerie imprint. These strange anomalies make each coin one of a kind, and that kind of uniqueness commands serious attention in the collector market. Now let's talk condition. The vast majority of 1967 quarters have been in circulation for decades. They've passed through countless hands, pockets, cash registers, and vending machines. That kind of wear shows. But a 1967 quarter in uncirculated condition, especially one with a mint error, that's where things get truly exciting. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC evaluate coins based on their condition and strike quality. If a 1967 quarter earns a high grade, say MS67 or higher, its value can skyrocket. Combine that with a mint error, and you're looking at a coin that collectors will compete fiercely to own. Now here's a fun fact. In 1967, no mint marks were used on quarters, regardless of whether they were minted in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. That was part of a broader effort by the U.S. Mint to discourage coin hoarding during a national coin shortage. So any mint variety collectors would usually search for doesn't apply here. But the absence of mint marks just adds more mystery and focus on other unique features like striking errors and planchet mistakes. For coin collectors, the 1967 quarter is a dream come true because it appears so common on the surface, but beneath that ordinary exterior lies the potential for something truly special. And that's the magic of coin collecting. Sometimes the most valuable coins aren't the rarest mints or the oldest dates. They're the ones with unexpected twists, minting errors, or just the right combination of history and luck. So now, the moment you've been waiting for. How much could one of these special 1967 Washington quarters actually be worth? Well, prepare to be amazed. Point 1, rare and error-struck 1967 quarter, preserved in extraordinary condition and authenticated by experts, was once sold for an unbelievable amount. That coin, with all its unique traits and historical value, fetched a final sale price of $78,000 United States dollars. Yes, you heard that right. $78,000 for a coin that originally cost just 25 cents. That's the kind of story that turns a casual collector into a passionate treasure hunter. Oh, what are you waiting for? Check your pocket change, dig through that old coin collection, And look a little closer the next time you find a 1967 quarter. You just might be holding something extraordinary. Top 3, we're about to uncover a quarter that has shocked collectors with its hidden secrets and jaw-dropping value. We're talking about the 1970 United States Washington quarter dollar. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A 1970 quarter? That sounds like a pretty common coin. You've probably seen dozens, maybe hundreds of them over the years. But listen closely, because within this ordinary-looking coin lies an incredible secret that only the sharpest collectors have caught on to. You're going to want to stick around to the very end of this video, because I'm going to tell you exactly why a certain version of this coin is so rare, and why one example sold for an astonishing $77,000. Let's take a quick journey back in time. The year is 1970. America is in the middle of dramatic change, protests, cultural revolutions, and even changes at the U.S. Mint. This was just 5 years after the United States removed silver from regular coin production. By this point, all Washington quarters were being struck on copper-nickel-clad planchets. The days of silver quarters were officially over, or so we thought. Because here's where things start to get interesting. Not all 1970 quarters are created equal. Some quarters minted in 1970 were struck with unexpected characteristics, strange planchets, odd features, or even older materials. These weren't your average, run-of-the-mill coins. These were mint errors, and they've become some of the most prized pieces in the world of coin collecting. One of the most famous examples is a 1970 S-proof quarter. Yes, that's right, a proof coin. Struck over a 1941 Canadian quarter. Imagine that. A 1970 United States quarter, layered over an older Canadian coin. If you look closely at this specific coin, you can actually see traces of the original date and design beneath the U.S. strike. It's like two coins fused into one, created entirely by accident, and that accident created something truly one of a kind. Now, let's pause here for a moment, because this is extremely important. Errors like this are not gimmicks. They're real, rare, and often verified by top grading services like PCGS or NGC. When a coin is mistakenly struck over another coin, especially from another country, it's called an overstrike error, and it's incredibly valuable due to its extreme rarity. But that's not the only 1970 quarter you need to be on the lookout for. Collectors have also discovered 1970 quarters with double die errors, especially visible in the lettering, like Liberty or the words "I in God we trust." In these cases, the letters appear slightly doubled or shadowed, and if it's strong and clear enough, that single feature can increase the value dramatically. There are also off-center strikes, where the coin design is misaligned because the blank was not centered during minting. Some quarters show missing parts of Washington's head or the rim inscriptions, and these oddities are considered collectible treasures. Then you have struck-through errors, where foreign materials like grease, cloth, or even thread get between the die and the blank during minting. This can create eerie or ghostly imprints on the coin's surface, each one completely unique. And remember, the San Francisco Mint primarily produced proof coins, which are coins made with exceptional detail and mirror-like surfaces. If you happen to come across a 1970 S quarter with unusual features and it still has that glossy, proof-like shine, you may be holding something very special. Let's not forget that coin condition plays a massive role in value. The better preserved your quarter is, the more valuable it becomes. Uncirculated or near-perfect proof coins are always in higher demand. A heavily worn coin, even with a small error, may be interesting, but one in pristine condition? That's what serious collectors are after. Now here's the big moment. The reason why collectors and dealers around the world have gone absolutely wild for this particular coin. One extraordinary 1970 S Washington quarter, featuring a dramatic overstrike error, certified and graded in proof condition, sold for an eye-popping sum. That small, shiny quarter, originally worth just 25 cents, was auctioned for a jaw-dropping total of $77,000 United States dollars. Yes, you heard that right. $77,000 for a single quarter. So, what's the takeaway? Simple. Coins like the 1970 quarter might look ordinary, but with the right combination of error, rarity, and condition, they become incredible pieces of numismatic history. And serious investments for collectors. So go check your coin jars. Take a closer look at those quarters. You never know. One of them might carry a hidden error, a minting mystery, or even traces of another country's coin beneath the surface. That's the thrill of coin collecting. That's the magic hiding in plain sight. Top 4, we're zooming in on a coin that millions of people have seen, spent, and passed on without a second thought. The 1971 United States Washington quarter dollar. It's a coin you probably wouldn't look at twice. But what if I told you that some rare versions of this coin could be worth a small fortune? In fact, one of these quarters has sold for a mind-blowing amount, and I'll reveal that exact number at the end of this video. So make sure you watch all the way through. Let's start with a little history. The Washington quarter has been a staple of American coinage since 1932. Originally created to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Over the decades, its design remained relatively consistent, but its composition, minting techniques, and rarity have varied wildly. And that's exactly why the 1971 version has caught the attention of serious collectors across the globe. By 1971, the United States Mint had already transitioned away from silver and regular circulating quarters. That change began in 1965, when quarters went from 90% silver to a clad composition, essentially a copper core sandwich between two layers of nickel. Millions of these new quarters were struck and put into circulation every year. On the surface, a 1971 quarter doesn't seem like anything special, but oh, how wrong that assumption can be, because tucked away among the sea of common coins are a few very rare 1971 quarters that feature unusual errors, incredible minting mistakes, and unique traits that make them not just interesting, but extremely valuable. Let's dive into what makes certain 1971 quarters worth much more than just 25 cents. First, let's talk mint errors, one of the most exciting things in coin collecting. Mint errors happen when something goes wrong during the coin production process. While that may sound like a negative for collectors, it's pure gold, because an error often means rarity, and rarity means value. One of the most sought-after 1971 quarter errors is the off-metal strike. That's when a quarter is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another coin. Imagine a Washington quarter that was mistakenly struck on a dime planchet. It would be smaller, lighter, and missing parts of the design. And to a trained eye, it's a major discovery. Another error that can send collectors into a frenzy is the double die. This occurs when the die that stamps the coin design onto the blank shifts slightly between strikes, creating a doubled image on parts of the coin, such as the date, lettering, or even George Washington's profile. A bold double die can dramatically increase a coin's value, especially if it's paired with a high grade. Speaking of condition, that's another huge factor. A coin's value increases significantly when it's found in mint state condition, which means it hasn't been circulated or damaged. Grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale to assess the condition of coins. A 1971 quarter graded at MS65 or higher, especially with an error or unique feature, is incredibly rare and incredibly desirable. But that's not all. Some 1971 quarters are known to have struck through errors, where something like a thread, piece of debris, or grease comes between the die and the blank during minting. The result is a strange, often ghostly distortion in the coin's surface. These one-of-a-kind errors make each coin truly unique, and uniqueness is like fuel for collector excitement. Here's another fascinating point for the serious coin nerds. There were no silver quarters officially minted for circulation in 1971, but errors and test strikes from earlier years sometimes slipped through. If a 1971 quarter was struck on a leftover silver planchet, or if one was made during a mint test or transition period, then that coin is a total outlier, and potentially a priceless rarity. Let's not forget about the San Francisco Mint, which in 1971 produced only proof coins for collectors, not for general circulation. If you find a 1971 quarter in everyday change, it could be a proof coin that was mishandled or mistakenly released, a detail that could make it more desirable to certain collectors. All of these factors come together to make the 1971 Washington quarter far more interesting and far more valuable than most people ever imagine. Now here comes the moment you've all been waiting for. Just how much could one of these rare and exceptional 1971 quarters be worth? Well, here's the truth, and it's going to blow your mind. One verified example of a 1971 Washington quarter with a rare error and in pristine mint state condition was sold to a passionate collector for an eye-watering total of $75,000 United States dollars. That's right, $75,000 for a coin that originally cost just a quarter. So, the next time you see a 1971 quarter in your change, don't overlook it. Examine it closely. Look for unusual colors, misaligned designs, or doubled lettering. Weigh it if you can. Compare it to others. Because you might be holding one of the rarest, most valuable coins in your collection without even realizing it. Top 5. We're about to uncover the secrets behind a coin that millions of Americans have seen, used, and probably forgotten. But what if I told you? A specific version of the 1974 United States Washington quarter dollar could be worth a life-changing amount of money? You heard that right. This isn't just any quarter. It's one with rare features, minting errors, and hidden value that most people never realize. And at the end of this video, we'll reveal how much one of these extraordinary coins actually sold for. So make sure you watch closely. Let's dive into it.at. First glance, the 1974 Washington quarter seems like your everyday coin. It features the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse side, with the words "Liberty" above and "In God We Trust" to the left. On the reverse, you've got the bold and proud American eagle perched on a bundle of arrows symbolizing strength and readiness, with olive branches underneath, representing peace. Now, here's where the story gets exciting. By 1974, all regular U.S. quarters were being struck using a copper-nickel clad composition. Gone were the days of silver quarters, which had been discontinued for circulation in 1965 due to rising silver prices. The new clad quarters had a copper core and nickel outer layer, a cost-saving move by the U.S. Mint. But here's the twist. While millions of these coins were minted and entered circulation, a very small number were created with errors. Errors that turned them into rare collectibles worth thousands of dollars. Let's talk about the types of errors that can turn a 1974 quarter from pocket change into a treasure. First up, the double die error. This is when the coin's design is struck twice, slightly misaligned, creating a doubling effect. On a 1974 quarter, doubling is usually spotted in the lettering. Look closely at "Liberty, In God We Trust," or the date 1974. If the doubling is strong and clear, you could be holding something incredibly rare. Next, there are off-center strikes. These errors occur when the coin blank is not properly aligned under the die. The result? Part of the design is missing, and part of the blank surface remains visible. The more dramatic the off-center strike, especially if the date is still visible, the higher the value among collectors. Another jaw-dropping find is a quarter struck on the wrong planchet. For example, a 1974 quarter struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign coin blank. These errors are extremely rare and easy to miss unless you're paying attention to weight, thickness, and diameter. A smaller than normal 1974 quarter might be one of these rare gems. Let's not forget struck-through errors, where debris like grease, cloth, or metal shavings end up between the die and the blank during minting. These can create fascinating, ghostly impressions or missing details on the coin's surface. Each struck-through coin is one of a kind, and collectors love that uniqueness. And here's a lesser-known fact. Number 1974 quarters have a mint mark from the San Francisco Mint for circulation, but proof versions were made for collectors. So if you find a 1974 quarter that shows signs of being struck for circulation, that could point to a rare transitional piece or even a mistakenly released proof coin. Now, let's talk condition. As always in coin collecting, condition is everything. A 1974 quarter in rough, circulated condition probably isn't worth much more than 25 cents. But a high-grade example with a rare error? That's the stuff collectors dream about. Coins graded MS66, MS67, or higher by professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC can reach jaw-dropping prices, especially if they have a minting error. The truth is, most people never look twice at their quarters. But a trained eye might just catch that doubling, that misalignment, that hint of something off. And when you do, you're not just finding a coin, you're finding a piece of history, a story, and maybe even a major payday. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. One extraordinary 1974 Washington quarter, featuring a rare minting error and preserved in superb, uncirculated condition, has been sold to an eager collector for the incredible sum of 72,000 United States dollars. Yes, that's right. $72,000 for a coin that most people would overlook, spend, or toss in a change jar without a second thought. So what can you take away from this? Simple. Always check your change. Pay attention to the small details, because that plain-looking quarter in your collection could be the one that changes everything. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it, subscribe to the channel for more incredible coin discoveries, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next rare find. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever seen a 1974 quarter with anything unusual? We'd love to hear your stories. Thanks for watching. And as always, stay curious, stay sharp, and happy collecting.